Hi, and welcome to our lesson on events and holidays. Now, over the last few years, I've noticed a trend that shies away from scrapbooking holidays and a more bigger focus on everyday life. But if everyday life is the details, holidays are the big picture, and there's a huge part of our story to be left out. So I think two of the reasons why that's happening is because we're overwhelmed with the number of photos that we take on events and holidays, and also it's very repetitive. We do the same things every Christmas, every Halloween. So the way I work around that, I'll show you. First of all, photos, I pare down to my very favorite photo. I don't need to scrapbook all 60 Halloween photos. This one captures that event. It shows me their costumes. I asked them to act out their character, and so I got something a little better than the typical pose shot, a little bit of fun, and shows a little bit of their personality. And then the story, what I concentrated on, rather than writing, oh, another Halloween, I wrote about what was different this Halloween from last Halloween. So I wrote, this was the year that they were able to cover almost the entire neighborhood. This was the year that I didn't have to remind them to say thank you. The one that Jesse became scared of everything, and the one where the weather was so cold they ended up having to wear coats. So I think that's a great alternative to writing the same story every year. It keeps it interesting and still lets me document these really important milestones. So let's get started. From a design point of view, I wanted to spice up my background a little bit. So we're going to create our background with some white gesso and some aqua mist. Now, gesso is a primer that artists use as a base for paint. And in this case, we're going to use it to mix in 2 to 3 sprays of mist. And I like the gesso because it creates sort of a translucent, has a translucent quality to it. And so we're just going to get a hint of that aqua, and it's going to make the background look almost like it's glowing. So we'll load up our 2-inch brush to give us some nice wide stripes of paint. And I'll just go back and forth here. Very lightly so that our page does not warp too much. And we're not going to paint the entire page. We'll go down about a little more than halfway, 3/4 of the way through. And you can see that I'm almost dry brushing. I don't want a lot of moisture on my background. And it's adding a bit of color to that white. Now this is going to dry quite a bit darker than it is now, and we'll set that out. And usually I will take these pages and put them under a craft mat and put a heavy object on top, and that will get rid of the bubbles that you see starting to form. Okay, now that my background has dried, I did add a second layer of gesso and aqua paint. My first layer was a little bit too light, so I let that one completely dry. I went over it a second time, let that one completely dry, and this is the effect that I got. And then you'll see where the mist shines through and the gesso looks like a glow over the blue. And that's exactly the look that I wanted to create for Halloween. So let's start creating our page. And here's my photo. We're going to create a mat or a stripe across this way using chipboard. I'm using this entire chipboard sheet from crepe paper. I love these icons. And we'll start by marking more or less where the photo is going to go. I'm not going to stick that down yet because I'm going to create around it. So let's start our edge with this really cool owl. And we'll put him up way at the top. And we'll have him peeking right at the kids there. So next, I want to highlight my words, and I think I'm going to do that right to the side of the photo. So these two things frame out my photo. And in order to use this, I went ahead and printed out my journaling, and we're just going to center the story. And we'll cut it to fit. Okay, we'll overlap the photo in order to connect. Here we're overlapping over this chipboard. We want to do the same on the right side. And I think that is ready to go down. Okay, next we'll use yet another frame. I like this one because I like the sort of dots and the little pop of orange that it gives us here. And we'll actually lift this one up a little bit and tuck that in. These frames have adhesive on the back, so that makes them really easy to use. And then in order to fill in this spot, I'm going to use another piece of chipboard, and we're going to use this spider web. So we want a round piece, lots of squares. We want to add something different. And we'll tuck that one in just like that. I think this looks set. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to use pop dots. I have them right behind my photo here. Because we're layering the photo on top of so much chipboard, you want to give your photo a little bit of lift so that it hovers above the other pieces. Okay, next I want to repeat this circle shape. We have circle, circle. The natural next choice for this blank spot we have here is another circle. So I'm going to use this wood slice. This is by Amy Tangerine. I love the texture that this gives. And we're going to tuck this, I believe, right here. And then you can see the 3 circles. And these are pretty easy to put down. I'm going to use glue dots. They're very lightweight, even though they're a little bit bulky, but they are balanced out by all of the chipboard that I'm using here. And we'll also tuck it underneath, again, to connect it to the photo. It would be very different if I had moved it, let's say, down here. Now it's floating here. But by moving it up to this cluster, we're connecting all of the elements. Okay, so now taking a look at the design, I see this huge horizontal stripe. And what I want to add next is something vertical to draw the eye down to the rest of the layout. And we're going to do that by adding this Halloween title just underneath. And continuing a vertical line, I'm going to center everything underneath this Halloween. And then we'll put the date, and we'll use more chipboard. We'll use October. And then this number 31. And we'll just center that. So that broke up this giant, huge rectangle that we have here. You use more of the page and the eye moves around the design. So our last little embellishment will be this bat, because this circle looks a little bit plain here. Sort of not part of the Halloween theme, and we want to add something to it that says Halloween. So we'll add a bat, and then just a little element of, I call these fake paint splatters almost. They're my enamel dots. And that completes the page. Now this page can be used for Christmas. All you need to do is change out the paint to maybe a gold glimmer, and then all the chipboard to Christmas, Thanksgiving, or birthday, any kind of event that you have.